Well, we had plenty of drama yesterday. It was even to the extent of one team creating what we call daylight robbery, actually in the middle of the night. So it was nighttime robbery. But after that, we've got plenty to live up to. Another game in the desert. This time it's two teams we have not seen yet in the second half of the tournament. It's the men in orange taking a high-flying Delhi team in match number 33 from Dubai. Delhi versus Hyderabad, plenty to play for the Orange Army if they are to somehow cling on to simple hopes of making it to the top four. I'm joined on Cricbuzz Live, brought to you in association with our fantasy partner, My 11 Circle, by Shaun Pollock, who was with us yesterday, and returning to the fold, our quiz guru and cricket pundit, Joy Bhattacharya. Joy, we are loving the standard you've now put onto your quiz questions.
But you've given a very good suggestion, and I think if our producer Abhimanyu follows that, soon we'll have visual questions as well, which should make it even more interesting. So lots more to look forward to.
Yes, Shaun, have you recovered from last night yet? Have you still figured out how Punjab lost that game?
Just barely recovered. I know it's sad to admit, but I mean, obviously when the game's finished here, it's not far away from bedtime in South Africa. And when I went to bed, I must have spent at least 45 minutes wondering about how that result was achieved. It just, I couldn't make sense of it. It just doesn't make any sense. But I'm glad we can move on. And that's the great thing about this RPL, isn't it? That the games come quick and fast, and you get to go through another fantastic journey with the different teams.
Unfortunately, this particular journey we're referring to has not been smooth for the men in orange, as the points table will reflect. The reason why I said they are so desperate to get the points on the board is because they are propping up the rest of the table. 2 points from 7 games, where it's pretty much half the number of games they've played. So they're not mathematically out by any means, but it means winning probably 6 out of 7. Maybe even 5 out of 7 could sneak them through mathematically, but that's still a tall order, at least going by the way they played earlier. Delhi, well, 12 points. They can probably think of just one more win. And the other thing, of course, is, Joy, that one more win, yes, but they'll want a spot in the top 2, because with this format, that's important.
I think absolutely. And I think Delhi would like to start this season the way they ended the last season, which is, as a powerful team, steamrolling the opposition. And they got everything right. They had a powerful opening combination. They've got Sher Iyer back. They've got Nokia back. So they've got a side now that is even more powerful, if it's possible, than the side that they had the first part of the tournament. And most importantly, I think, you look at the squad, the most important thing about it is they're playing again in Dubai. If you remember 2020, that was when Rabada and Nokia went mad, absolutely mad, because the pitches were totally suited to them. So now they're away from the Indian pitches. They're there. I think this side looks even better than it did 3 months back when the tournament was last played.
Yeah, Shaun, we spoke about them yesterday, already in second place, with this team coming together on these surfaces. With what we've seen in the first couple of days, I think the South African combination will be itching to get down to the park.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think they would. Dubai International Stadium, of the 3 venues that are used there, it's always been the best for me. It offers a bit of assistance. You get some shape through the air. You get a bit of carry through to the wicketkeeper as well. And their facts and figures have been pretty impressive there. I mean, you look at that 13 wickets, 11 wickets apiece. You put 8 overs together of those 2 in combination, you basically are in a strong position. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing if they do go with those 2 options. We've seen in the past that they have mixed and matched and haven't always gone with the 2 South Africans. But as Joy was saying, last time they were there, they were absolutely fantastic. I mean, when you look at that squad, there's just so many different options that they could actually go for. I think there would have probably been a few emails sent to them when this new structure was put in place and the tournament was going to continue about could they maybe just trade a few of their players or take a couple on loan, because they seem to have such a wealth of depth and strength that a lot of the other teams would love to be able to just tap into a couple of guys who's sitting on the bench.
Yeah, well, historically, if you look at the last so many years of this tournament, Delhi has probably been the one place where everyone's gone. It's been like the university. Everyone goes there, plays a bit for Delhi and goes off anyway. Anyone you mention, other than, say, a Virat Kohli, who's been focused on one franchise, everyone else has Oh yeah, I was in Delhi for a bit and then I came away. But at the moment, they've got a strong squad. Who knows where they'll be later? Unfortunately, it wasn't the greatest news for the Hyderabad squad because they did have one player, and that's the one we've highlighted there, testing positive in T. Natarajan, who has been a great performer for them. Fortunately, all is well. There are no symptoms. He does have to isolate, as does Vijay Shankar, who was deemed to have been in close contact with him, along with a few members of the support staff. But, Joy, that's the reality of the times we live in. The good news is the match will go ahead.
I think that's really important that the match goes ahead. It's very early in the tournament and after the restart. So it was important that there are enough players. They're putting enough players in the park to make this match go ahead. And look, there's a whole theory out there about false positives and true positives, which I can go into. And I think all of us have become the experts on statistical epidemiology, which, none of us knew. But right now, it's just important that games start, keep going on. And I think this is a very, very strong SRH squad. It's a strong Hyderabad squad. Just a couple of things that you think about. One is that the moment you take somebody of the quality of best or out, you're not just taking a batsman out because you can get a like-for-like replacement. It's a wicket-keeping duties. I wonder who's going to pick up the gloves right now.
Fair point. We were hearing various options there. Of course, they do have Saha and Srivats Goswami in the squad. But there could be all sorts of combinations that we might even have a surprise wicketkeeper coming up into the mix over there. But we'll wait and find out about that. But Joy, one more follow-up question to that. Wonderful squad, yes. But have the Indians in orange done as much as, say, the Indians have done in the other franchises?
I have to say they haven't, and this is interesting. When Hyderabad has picked a side for consistency, they've had 5, 6, 7 bowlers. You look at the Indian bowlers, they're all on the fringe of Indian selection. Bhuvneshwar Kumar, T. Natarajan, Siddharth Kaul, all of them have played for India at some time. Sandeep Sharma has played for India. Khalil Ahmed. So you've got 6 fast bowlers, 5 fast bowlers who played for India in the recent past. Yet, other than Bhuvneshwar, once Bhuvneshwar was unfit, unfortunately for them, I think he's looking much better now that he's totally fit. They haven't had an outstanding performer. And people like Siddharth Kaul, who've done really well for them, and Sandeep Sharma have just not been up to it. Nor has Khalil Ahmed. Khalil Ahmed was in India contention even, 6 months to a year back, and suddenly he seems to have fallen off. And this is the big problem with them. They picked very well in the auction, but somehow their Indian bowlers have not given it to them for this first part of this tournament. Definitely, they just haven't performed at all.
Well, Shaun, let me just quickly update everyone onto the news of the toss. The men in orange have won the toss and decided Kane Williamson has decided to bat first. Now, this has sort of been a formula, Shaun, that they've employed for a long time. Even if they were to put on 130, 140, they used to fancy their bowlers to go and defend it. They were not a chasing side.
Yeah, it isn't. I suppose you've got to look at your different strengths. You look at the surface. You look at what's going to play the part. But just on the bowling front, they're just following up on Joy's point. It is because it's a T20 format. It can be a roller coaster of a kind of format for a lot of bowlers. And if you're in and out and you're playing just a few games, you never really get into the rhythm. And so I think for them going forward, as you see, I know how good the results have to be for them to get anywhere in this tournament. But if they can stick with 3 or 4 guys in particular and use them for the rest of the period, I think that will give them the balance, give them the role definition. Natarajan is a massive blow for them because I think they understand his role. I think if you said to me, of all the 3 bowlers, it's Rashid Khan, but he can do any role. Bhuvi and Natarajan, who are the ones who know what they're going to do as far as the sunrises go. The other guys, they come in, well, what am I going to do today? What am I not going to do today? And they aren't as settled as they could be. The batting has always seemed to be very settled. And maybe that's what they're thinking of doing today. Lay a big total on the board, take a bit of pressure off the bowlers, and see if that works. But it have been a used surface. No surprise that they decide to bat first.
Yeah, well, I can tell you the one little question we had of who's going to don the gloves. It is very much Ridhiman Saha, Joy. So possibly might even ask him to open the batting and play an aggressive role. We saw him got stuck in one particular innings and came back and compensated for it. So that has answered that Ridhiman Saha will don the gloves.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how that experiment turns out, because let's face it, what's going to happen out here is if Ridhiman Saha is what I call a terrific player, he delivers a lot for his abilities, but perhaps he's not of the class of a lot of players who are there. So he's pretty hit and miss in that, in that opening position. Now, here's a question that you need to ask yourself. Do you therefore go with your settled, solid international players up front and say that, you know what, I'll go Manish Pandey, I'll go Kane Williamson, I'll go David Warner as my top three and say, gentlemen, you are my top international players. You're going to deliver the job for me. Everyone else can come later. And Manish Pandey has the numbers to justify it as well. When he's been batting at, when he's been opening, look at the strike rate out there, 149. And we are used to seeing Manish Pandey in the low 120s to the mid 120s. I think it can make a difference. And I genuinely believe that when you're 1-6 in a tournament, you have to go to your top players and say, you know what, you are our expensive players. It's your responsibility to perform. If you're not putting Manish Pandey, Warner and Williamson as the top three, I think you're hiding them and you're telling somebody else who's a great trier, but with not that much ability as a batsman, go there and hit. These guys have to take the responsibility. That's my only problem. I mean, I would say put Saha at 6, put Saha at 7, put Saha as a pinch hitter if, somebody gets out early at 3 or something. But do not open with anything other than your best international talent. I just believe in it.
Here's the issue for me. Whenever Joyce starts a sentence with, I've got a question that you guys need to answer, I get very nervous. But particularly as of late, with some of those questions.
He saves that particular question for the viewers and for the end. But he keeps it simple for all of us. But I think it was a fair point to make because we've often asked Manish Pandey this question. I remember Joy and Shaun, a couple of years ago, he actually came out and said, my preferred batting position is number 5. And I think he's sort of revised that in his own mind to say that, yes, like any other batsman, Shaun, I would like to play more balls. So why not go higher up the order?
Yeah, I think what influenced that maybe is, I think, as a guy on the outside of any Indian squad or Indian team, you start to think, well, where can I possibly fit in? And when you look at the likes at the top of the order, you're thinking, well, I'm not going to be able to get in there. So maybe I need to reinvent myself. Maybe I need to come up with a different option of being a little bit of a finisher. And that might have influenced the way he thought about what he wants to do. But I think for me, it's just his performance every once in a while where it almost like he falls asleep or goes missing in action and he'll just bat in the crease for 30, 40 balls and not seem to do anything. And I think therein lies the frustration for them as to if he was a guy who played a certain way all the time, I think they'd throw more responsibility at him. I think Saha is another case in point as well. He's had a couple of those knocks at the top of the order where you go, oh my gosh, why don't they get these guys to do it more? And then you'll have a match where you'll get 7 or 15 balls and you think, well, is this the same player? And I think that's where the link has been a little bit missing for them. They have given these guys certain opportunities, certain changes of roles, but it's been a bit of hit and miss, as Joyce said. They haven't backed it up. And when you give that guy a chance, if he takes it with both hands, your whole team runs so much more smoothly.
Yeah, I just have one point to add to this, and I keep going back to this. For me, the interesting thing is I think Pandey, in terms of batting talent, leave aside, I think Saha is one of the greatest keepers in India, one of the best. In terms of batting talent, okay, Pandey is here and temperament Pandey is much lower. Saha's basic batting talent is not that great. His temperament is great. So when Saha can't do it, he just can't do it. You know what I mean? It's not his head that's stopping him. And I think that's the thing, that the guy who has the talent doesn't have, as positive a temperament. And I think somewhere in between, they're missing out on this balance. But they have to, when you're 1-6, you have to go to Pandey and say, fire him up and say, you go there and do the job. You are the big Indian batsman. Go there and do your job. We can move on now. I'm done. I'm done on this.
But the other person, Pandey or no Pandey, Saha, no Saha, Kane, of course, is the captain. The one person who really they would like coming to the party is David Warner. He's been a captain. He's been an impact player. But when Warner's on song, when he can give you that 70 or 80, that is the kind of score. They need to put a 170, 180 on the board, Shaun.
Yeah, they do. And there's the facts and figures for you, isn't it? Look at that average, look at that strike rate compared to what we've seen since 2020. And if you'd be totally honest about their success that they've had over the years, it's basically been down to three batters at the top of the order. You know, they haven't relied on anyone else. Every once in a while, there's a little cameo where someone finishes a game off for them. But it was those three at the top of the order who just kept coming good for them. And that's why they had so much success, 23 50s. You know, it's a massive contribution that he keeps making. And he'll be disappointed with the way it's gone so far for him. And I have no doubt that going back to Australia would have put in some hard work. There's been a lot of opportunity to work on his game. And I think he'll be dead keen to come out here and impress. So I would expect a more polished performance. Even the mindset, you know, that I think he was like, I don't think I'm going right for the captaincy. And maybe you can even leave me out. Meant that he had got to a bit of a low in his career. And everyone gets there. But how you bounce back is important.
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot about that. We briefly talked about Virat Kohli, Joy, and of course the recent decision both for India and for Bangalore. But sometimes it's that whole burden of captaincy. There are some people who, of course, they enjoy it, but they might just feel that for those field positions, for choosing who's in the 11, for going to the toss and trying to remember 5 changes, it's just they're not cut out for it.
True. I think David Warner did not. It's not that he didn't enjoy captaincy. I think he did enjoy captaincy. But what happens is a lot of players, when their individual form starts suffering, and then it's a matter like Saurav is a great example. Saurav was a much better captain when he was very confident about his own position, his place, and how he was playing. And I think that's the same thing with David Warner. David Warner, as a batsman, when he's performing and he doesn't have to think about it, then his mind is much more open for captaincy. I think once those are in a situation where they're close to each other, then it's a problem with Warner. But as I said, we should not discount that possibly after Suresh Raina, if Suresh Raina has been the dominant batsman in the first half of the IPL, the first 5-7 years of the IPL, you have to say David Warner is the most dominant batsman. In the last 4-5 years of the IPL, he is the man.
Certainly is the man. And all of you asking the question in terms of which are the 4 overseas players from both sides. So I think it's time that we actually present them to you. From Hyderabad, Jason Holder, Rashid Khan, David Warner, Kane Williamson. That's the one problem. I mean, not that you have any queries about Kane Williamson, but you're always looking at 3 slots, Joy. It's 1 plus 3. So what Williamson has to be picked come what may. Warner was like that a while ago. Jason Holder was the one question mark. Who was going to be that 4th player? And they've gone for Holder over maybe someone like a Nabi.
Yeah, this is the balance that they do every time. Holder versus Nabi, that 3rd batsman, or that number 7, number 8 player. And I think they can also risk playing Rashid Khan just maybe a couple of positions higher than he's not currently playing. But it's that thing. They need that player to stabilize the fact that the Indian 4-5-6 has not performed for them. So they keep needing that one guy else. They cannot go with that extra bowler. If you remember a couple of seasons back, Billy Stanlake was doing fantastically for them. But they just couldn't afford to play that extra strike bowler because they felt that, the Indian batting in that 4-5-6 was just not giving them enough. But look, this is as good a lineup as they can put forward. And I think I quite like this team.
Yeah, I just think there's been a big reshuffle for them with Natarajan becoming and having the COVID positive. I don't think Holder would have played. We discussed it last night. I think if Natarajan was fit to go, I think he would have done the bowling option, and they probably would have gone Jason Roy at the top of the order, and then maybe look to rig it a different way. I just think now that they do have to have a little bit of an extra balance. The all-rounder comes in to complement it because your bowling options are maybe a little bit more iffy than they were, and there's no particular role for someone who's going to bowl at the back end. Holder all of a sudden comes back into the mix. So I think this has caused a big reshuffle for them. I think also the Warner back in, I think the left-hander at the top of the order, I think they'll go Saha. I think the 2 of them will go out to the middle. I think Kane will come in at number 3. And then Manish Pandey at number 4. And they'll hopefully rely on those 2. But I think behind the scenes, if they had discussed their team before, once this news has come out, I think there's been a big rejig for them, which isn't ideal.
Yeah, that's a fair spot over there. Fair spot, because you really have to go and look at that balance and see what you can do with it. As far as Delhi is concerned, no such problems. Neither with the points table, neither with that unfortunate development to Natarajan. This again is a team that looks like it selects itself. The big one, Shaun, really is, and we've talked about it earlier, getting Shreyas Iyer back into that middle order. Was captain earlier, captaincy handed over to Rishabh Pant, but his batting, that stability at number 3 is what has probably made them a more solid outfit.
Yeah, I think he was almost trying to find his feet at one stage, but he really had settled into his role and started to show a lot more maturity and start to play a lot better. So I think that is vital. Your quality Indian batsmen in this RPL are always so important. It allows you to fiddle around a little bit with the international mix of the other 4 guys. So I think that's a huge plus for them. Ashwin back in as well. I think that'll give them that extra option. But I think they're a decent side, and as I say, I think there's so many different combinations. They've performed really well, but to have all those other guys back and available just takes them to the next level.
Certainly does. Ashwin, again, will always be a talking point. Never mind the national side, Joy. We're talking Delhi, and is he going to be PTP in a different sense?
Yeah, he's always PTP. I think Ashwin, for all the success that he's had, he's never quite in it. You know what I mean? Even as a captain, if you remember, he went to Kings 11, became captain. He's never quite there, and you always feel he doesn't get the credit he deserves. But I think Ashwin is a crucial player out here because they will, if you look at the team that they will have to target. All teams try and target 1 or 2 bowlers and say, these are the guys we're going to get the extra runs off. And if you look at that, they'd have to take their risks against Ashwin because even Aksar is not the easiest of bowler. He bowls very flat. He's not that easy to get away. And this is frankly a dream side. You can nitpick about the fact that maybe their death bowling wasn't great in the first installment of the IPL, but that's the thing. Now, if Rabada comes back, and Rabada was not the player that he was, Rabada is a much better player than he showed in the first half of this tournament that was in India. And I think with his partner coming back, it's going to make a huge difference. This data also is in 2021, 16.8. I mean, economy rate of 11.08. That just is, that's not the Delhi we know, is it?
Yeah, I think I can shed some light on that too. I think if we look at the tournament before in 2020, it had to do with where the matches were played. I think at your venues like Dubai, when the guys come in at the back end, what they could do is they could obviously back their Yorkers and slow balls and that, but they could also back the back of a length, quicker delivery, the bouncers. They're using their pace to their advantage. Then all of a sudden you go to places like Chennai, you can't do that. The quicker it came in Chennai, the faster it went. So in many ways they couldn't be used at that option. And I think, we always have to look at these stats in relevance to what is actually unfolded. And I think you'll see a better performance too. KG, I was watching him. He actually was sending me a few messages to try and help him out a little bit with his bowling in Sri Lanka. He's starting to look more like his old self. He's starting to find some really good rhythm. So I think him and Nokia will have more an impact in the death overs here in the UAE than they did in India for sure.
Well, before we go forward, I think there's a little reminder to all of you. We've given you our lineups, and we need to keep reminding you that the captains have decided their 11s. It's time for all of you. There are lots of you already playing. Get onto your My 11 Circle app. Download it if you haven't downloaded it. Select 11 players. Get your captain in. It's pretty simple. And the one big news for this year is the prize money. 5 crore is your first prize, and that is absolutely humongous. Lots of incentive to play, and of course, bragging rights always come along with it, and that's part of the fun of it. Some like me end up suffering and end up getting told off on air, but we continue to play. We continue to put our My 11 Circle teams and put our best foot forward. We also have our My 11 Circle smart picks, gentlemen, and I'd like your help in just aiding everyone to see what 3 possible picks could be. And I think, Joy, these 3 pretty much pick themselves. Prithvi Shaw in the first half of the tournament, you just would not want to have him in your 11, in any 11.
Absolutely. And first and foremost, in these cases, in all fantasy league cases, whenever you're playing, the first thing is to look for batsmen who are definitely going to bat. Now, Prithvi Shaw and Shikhar Dhawan are definitely going to bat. After that, you never know. And just look at that strike rate, 187. And it's not that Shikhar Dhawan has been going in the 40s, 140s, and 150s, but really up front, Prithvi Shaw has been the battering ram that they've used. And ever since that, Vijay Hazare performance, which was absolutely out of this world, after coming back from Australia, he came back, played at Vijay Hazare. He's a different man altogether. And what he's got, I think what Ponting is giving him more than anything else is what I call the license to kill. The license to go there and hit. It doesn't matter if you get out, dominate the bowling. And that's what they're looking with Prithvi, because, see, he's one of those players who has the hand-eye coordination and the bat speed to dominate bowling, especially in a format where, of course, you're not allowed to use too many short balls. So they are using him as that battering ram up front. And then when he slows down, if he gets out, Shikhar Dhawan comes in. But Prithvi is a sure shot pick. It's a sure shot pick in this format. He's hit and miss, but the day he hits, he'll give you so much at such a fast strike rate that it's worth it.
And you also, Shaun, have to opt for solidity, and you can't get more solid than the captain of the Hyderabad franchise, Kane Williamson. To a lot of people, was never perceived as a T20 player, but he's shown that proper cricket gets you points, hence runs anywhere.
Yeah, I think the case in point for Prithvi was he was quite keen for the tournament to continue because of the form he was in. With Kane Williamson, it doesn't matter. You can give him a break. You can make him rest for 3 months or 4 months. He's just Mr. Consistency, isn't he? And, we go back to what we discussed last night. It's got to do, like with Prithvi Shaw, the element of risk is probably maybe in the 60s and 70s at times with the shots he decides to play. Whereas Kane Williamson, he's down at 20, maybe 30% risk. And he's still so effective. His strike rate's still really impressive. So I think that's the key. And that's what makes him so valuable, is that he eliminates as much of the risk as he possibly can. He's so consistent. And he's definitely a good option.
And number 3 is, again, a no-brainer in your teams. The only question I have, Joy, and I keep asking this to everyone, if you're thinking of maybe making him captain, what is going to be the batsman's approach to Rashid Khan? I mean, are people going to say 4 overs, none for 19, and we are happy with it? Or are they going to actually have to attack him at some point?
No, from whatever I've seen of this tournament, firsthand with the Kolkata, when you have bowlers like Sunil Narine was in his pomp and maybe Rashid Khan is now, you play them out. You play them out unless you're at a chase where you can't afford to play them out. And that's exactly the point. And this is going to happen this time also. So the point is, if you're going to chase 18, 35 out balls, you will have to take on whoever there is. But otherwise, the instruction would just be take the singles, don't give him wickets, and don't allow him to ascend. All these bowlers, they feed on wickets. They feed, they get more and more confident. Don't give him wickets. And they'll just say, play the ball round. They don't take risks. And I've seen it work against Kolkata when Sunil Narine used to play in his pomp. And I think everyone will do the same with Rashid.
Yeah, I just think he's a platinum selection. He really is top of the pops, MVP at most tournaments that he goes to. And the key is, as Joy says, if you decide that you're going to take him on, if you decide to be brave enough as a unit, once he picks up a wicket, the person walking to the crease, it is hell of a difficult. It's like a Malinga. You don't just walk in and go, here's a single, I'll rotate strike. It is very stressful for those guys walking to the crease. They're trying to work out what option is he using. He's not going to miss his areas. He's not going to give you a freebie. And that's what makes them so effective. That's what makes him the X factor. It's just that if they get on top of you, there's no place to hide. You're going to battle to deal with him.
Yeah, fair enough. So there you go. That's our 3 My 11 Circle smart picks. Of course, at the end of the day, the choice is yours to get in the 11 players, to pick up your captain. And we keep discussing it from time to time. We keep giving you our tips. But Joy, I think what we'll do is we've got still a bit of time on the show. We'll change things around a little bit. Since we've talked so much about the standard of your questions, we'll pick up a Joy Factor question right here, right now. So go for it and give it to us.
Okay, if Phil Simmons is in first place in a specific record category and Kapil Dev is in 6th, which Indian bowler is unexpectedly in 3rd place? Why I say unexpectedly, this is not a record you really associate with this kind of bowler. That's not what he's known for. Let me just put it that way. Indian bowler, unexpectedly.
I've got to go. I think I've got it. This is a rarity. This is a rarity that I could possibly have an option. I won't put it out there,
All right.
But I think I know. I think I know
Fair
where
enough.
this is going.
We'll give you first dibs, Sean. The moment the show's off air, we'll give you first dibs, and we will give you an honorary mention along with whoever it is who, with hashtag Cricbuzz Live, sends in the joy factor answer for today. It sounds like a fun
Trust me,
question. We love lists.
if I can answer Joy's question compared to the prediction of what score they're going to get or anything, it's far outweighs. If I can get Joy's answer, then that's a real win for me.
Well, we're going to see how quickly the answers keep coming in. But let's get back to the match at hand. It's Delhi against Hyderabad. I'm sure Hyderabad, Joy, will want to put behind them whatever else has happened. The last thing they needed is an extra X factor to go against them. But obviously, 11 players on the park, 11 quality players on the park. They'll have to start thinking of setting a total now.
Yeah, and this is the one thing that they have those experienced batsmen up front, like David Warner and Kane Williamson, who will do a good job of judging the pitch. They'll come back and they'll tell their boys, guys, this is a 160 pitch, it's a 170 pitch, this is playing like this. You can play it out, or say, you know what, the ball's doing a bit, don't take on these guys right now, don't take on Rabada right now. So they will, at least they have that experienced batsman up front who can make these decisions. I'm still very, very keen because, I always knew Riddhiman Saha would play. But I'm very keen to see where they play him. Do they play him as a kamikaze batsman up front, or do they put him back at 5 or 6? It'll be interesting to see. But this also, remember one more thing. When you're 1 and 6, they're going to throw, and we've seen Kolkata do this 2-3 days back. They're going to really throw the kitchen sink at you because they have nothing to lose. They have nothing to lose. You have maybe 11 players, out of which 9 perhaps will not be with this team when the next auction happens. So they'll also be very interested in showing that no matter what happens out here, I want to show I'm a good enough player to get a good price at the auction. So all these are also thoughts that are going through. This is a desperate team in the last year before a big auction. So it'll be very interesting to see what are the kind of drivers they have and what they do. And Delhi has everything to lose. Hyderabad has everything, has nothing to lose at this point in time. So I would like to see a 180, 200. I'd like to see them taking on these guys. And I hope they do.
Interesting to see that the approach, as you said, the openers to the quicker bowlers. There was so much talk, Sean, about Rabada and the wickets he gets in the power play versus the wickets he gets later on. And it almost became a rarity at one point in time, Rabada picking up wickets in the power play.
Yeah, it did. But I'd be interested to see how the surface goes. I think they're leaving a lot more grass on these pitches because they want to make sure that these surfaces last. I mean, they've got this RPL plus then a lot of cricket coming the month after. So I think they'll keep making them in many ways a little bit more bowler friendly. So I think Rabada might have his way with regards to the surface, the carry he can get, maybe the swing through the air. I would expect to see a better performance. It has seemed to be the case so far in the tournament. It hasn't been massive, excessive movement, but the carry's been good and the ball seems to be coming on. So I think the surface is slightly different and that might play into his hands.
Yeah, and the one thing is, because they're the fourth set of teams that are coming out here, we've had more than one game in Dubai. We've had 2 in Dubai, 1 in Abu Dhabi. So there's enough for these two teams to have looked back at what's happened in those 2 Dubai games to say that, okay, we're not coming in cold into the second half.
Yeah, they're not coming cold, certainly. They've seen the kind of carry and bounce on offer, and it might be a little bit less because, if you're playing your third game out there, but it's not going to be substantially different from the first 2 days. Pitches also take a bit of time to get tired. So I think they know what they want. What they will have to do is, I think a lot of it is about playing it by ear. A bowler like Nokia, they might even target because they might feel that if we can somehow hit him off his line, we have an opportunity. Because if you look at this Delhi bowling attack, there isn't very much you can target. So they might go after Navesh Khan and say, can we hit him off his leg? Rabada is not the guy you try stunts like that on. Akshar Patel is very pitch to pitch, very difficult to get. If Stoinis gets some overs, perhaps they can go after Stoinis.
Yeah, what I would say is that the Delhi plans, though, are often to strike up front. And then when they look at the Hyderabad team, they think, sure, 2 wickets up front, it can be game over. So I expect a full-out attack from Delhi.
Well, I can tell you one thing. Kamikaze is opening the batting with David Warner. So based on that, Joy, are you going to hazard a Hyderabad 20 over score prediction?
I'm sorry. I have lowballed it the last time we came around. I'm going to lowball again. I'm going to go 152.
152. I'm sure Delhi would love you for that. 152 is something they would fancy chasing down. I would reckon, yeah, it's a new team, a desperate team. I'm going to go a little bit higher at 169. 169 for me.
Shaun.
Shaun, you're going to go even higher than that?
Well, 152,
Williamson.
169. Is that right?
Correct.
That's right.
Okay, I'll go in the middle. I'll go 161.
You don't have Harsha here to sledge you, so you can nicely slot in there at 161. So we've got a smaller window than we expected, a smaller window, but I'm sure from Hyderabad's point of view, they'll want to be well outside that window. They'll want to fling it open and try and be in the 175, 180 type range, because 2 points only. They need every possible thing to try and make it somehow mathematically to the playoffs. Delhi, more comfortable, bowling first, strong bowling attack, strong unit. It should be a fascinating contest. Just a reminder to all of you, whatever the contest might be, if you're a cricket fan, if you're a cricket lover, if you're a cricket tragic, Cricbuzz Plus is the place to be. Get in there. There's articles to read, videos to see, and so much content to savor. We'll keep bringing it to you as we bring you Cricbuzz Live, which we have today. 10th over, just a reminder, Cricbuzz Combox will be on to assess this setting of a total by the Orange Army. For now, that's all from Joy Bhattacharya, Shaun Pollock, and myself, Gautam Bhimani, on Cricbuzz Live, brought to you in association with our fantasy partner, My 11 Circle.